Hello, Anna. How are you?
Hello. Yes, good. Thank you on this sunny day. Lovely.
It is indeed. So, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's live webinar. I'm Dr. 𝐄𝐯𝐶 and I have Anna Bremington with me. So, we are representing Andy Business Club. And those you are watching this live webinar on LinkedIn and any other social media, please feel free to ask us any question you may have. And today we're just going to be discussing a very critical point, isn't it, Anna? And that is tech-driven business transformation, embracing change for competitive advantage. So most of you may know that me and Anna, we are mostly working in tech, and as well as we have characteristics to work on other media, as both of us are neurodivergent. So you know that neurodivergent people, they intend to work in multiple domains. But good thing is that Anna is experienced in technology as well as marketing. And similar way, I shared her experience in technology, marketing, and AI. So uh, today we wanted to discuss tech-driven business development, which is very important nowadays in the era of AI, isn't it, Anna?
Mm. Absolutely, absolutely. It's the hot topic at the moment, and I
Mhm.
think, particularly in AI, it's very misunderstood on what it is and how it can help as well. So hopefully,
Mhm.
can demystify some of that.
Hmm, that's a good question because I was working with someone and they don't like AI at all.
Mm.
Okay, and you know when there are intellectual people in media, so I work with some of the media people. They're very good at English literature and all those things, and they don't like AI at all because
Mm.
AI do not AI, it does not have heart. It cannot think the way human think. But you know, in Cannes Film Festival, I have a client who he was my teacher 20 years back. He's working at the University of Oxford, teaching MA screenwriting. He particularly like AI. Why? Because with AI, you can produce such things uh, that normally, when you're thinking for something, you can't get out your idea put together.
Mm.
But AI can do that very easily, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know, it's really interesting because I'm on a few writing groups because I'm an ex-writer, but business writer, and I'm trying to write a fiction book.
Mhm.
And there's been loads of discussions on those recently. They said, well, if you've used AI at all to write or edit your book, can you call yourself a writer? And I was having a ponder on this actually,
Yeah.
because I struggle with writing. Now, as you know, Dr. I have ADHD. Oh, actually, news! I have finally been officially diagnosed this weekend with ADHD. So I have my official diagnosis now. So
Congratulations.
I was hoping for like a certificate or an award or something. So I've got combined ADHD, largely on the hyperactive side. I think didn't
Mhm.
come to a surprise to anyone. And with ADHD, like we have loads of ideas. A lot of us, you know, that's one of the traits that quite a few people with ADHD have.
Mhm.
We have all these ideas, and as you know, Dr. Sharp, I'm rubbish at fulfilling things and going through with them.
Mhm.
So, oh, I think I've lost you, Dr. Shah.
Oh no, I'm
Oh,
there.
oh,
I'm
you were
there.
there. Sorry.
Yes. So
um,
mhm.
and then, so I really struggle with it, and I can write small pieces, but I really want to write a novel. And I started thinking about this, you know, should I use AI to help me write a novel? Because I'm struggling. I've got probably about 50 book ideas I've written down. And the question is like, if I use AI to write a book, am I a writer? And I'm like, do I want to be a writer? Or actually, do I want to be a storyteller and a
Mhm.
creative story idea? I'm
Mhm.
trying to think of job titles, almost like, or not job titles, but like titles you give yourself. Because I'm probably like, I've got to admit to myself, and I had a chat with someone at a recent conference who also is very similar to me. And he said, I'm never going to write a novel. I write microfiction, I write poetry. That's as far as I can do. And I got to admit to myself that maybe I cannot write a novel, but I have stories that are meant to be a novel. And I'm like,
Mhm.
how can I get this story out? So if I used AI to help me write it, would I be a writer? Don't know. I'm an ex-writer.
I think there's a confusion here. But if you think about ghostwriting, there is lots of chit chat on ghostwriting due to the BBC scandal and all those things.
Yeah.
It's getting highlighted. People are using ghostwriter hundreds or 200 years ago from there.
Yeah.
So if you think the ghostwriter is your AI buddy,
Yeah.
how that makes sound?
Yeah, exactly. Because I was starting to worry. Like, do you remember Milli Vanilli from, is it the 80s, where they got found out that they weren't the real singers? They were just these two gorgeous men that danced and pretended they sang, and then someone else sang in the background. I was like, well, you know, I mean, I know there was controversy around it, but I'm like, maybe I could be the Milli Vanilli of writers. I could come up with the idea, and because, you know, back to what you were saying about, not everyone can do everything. You know, there are writers who can write stuff, but actually where you have a difficulty, I have fibro, I have ADHD, will I be able to write a novel? But should I not write a novel because I can't write a novel? There's this big dilemma in actually, is it opening up accessibility for people to be able to do stuff that they've got halfway there or part of the way there, and they need the help the rest of the way. Now, I'm not talking about like from start to finish with AI ideation, writing, everything. I feel there has to be human input. Exactly what you said. You know, there's this sort of stories and humanness. It can't do everything the same as us. But is there this sort of gaps that it can fill? And does that make it any less genuine? You know, this is, I mean, is AI still new? This is, it's still a debate, isn't it? You know, is it still genuine?
You're right. But in genuine, if you measure it with how much really you're thinking about it, if you're stealing someone thing and you rewrite them and you give them the credit, as a researcher myself, what we do, we steal things. That's normal thing. What we do, we steal things from different authors, different publishers. And what we do, we rewrite them with our own words, and then we reference them.
Yeah.
So is it stealing? No.
Yeah.
That's the way if you are a novelist, what do? You see things and observe things, and you steal those things to your imagination, and then you write them down. So if you think about your imagination, that's going to be unique. No one can think like you. No one. Even your children, son, daughters, or your husband or your mother, they can't think like you. Every human is unique. So if you think about that, like, okay, you have some gaps. As a neurodivergent person, we have some gaps. We have some strength. So if you utilize your strength and you ask someone else to fulfill your gaps, that's okay, isn't it? That should be okay. Like ghostwriter, what they do, they will sit with you and you talk to them and you will give them instruction of such things and they will write it for you. So why don't you think that ChatGPT is just like a ghostwriter? And you acknowledge them like, okay, I use some of the things with ChatGPT, but ChatGPT doesn't have anything until you give it right direction, give it right things to get you the right answer.
That's very true. And it reminds me of when, you know, and I think it is this sort of getting used to how this will fit into our lives, because I remember back when I did A levels, and it's showing my age now, because I remember that we were not, in our A levels, we were not allowed to do typed essays because they thought that using Microsoft Spell Checker was a cheat and that it wasn't fair and we shouldn't use it. So we had to handwrite everything. I remember when I went to university, it changed, and then we did start. We were allowed to use Microsoft, and I remember some of my dyslexic friends were like, "Oh, brilliant! This is amazing." Being able to, although the spell checker was not as good back there, because a friend of mine, the way he spells, sometimes the spell checker just couldn't figure it out, because he spells quite phonetically. But that really leveled the playing fields, and rather than people thinking it felt like cheating, they focused on different things such as the content. I mean, unless you were doing a writing degree, maybe that's different, but I was doing a computing degree. and it was the content that was really important, not the spelling and the grammar, you know. So that by using Microsoft, it meant they could read it and get to the content without being distracted. So I think, you know, that switch will happen. Don't you think that switch here will happen, that we'll start looking at it and going, actually, no, this is a tool we can use. This is how we use it. It's not cheating, but, you know, we still, you know, Microsoft, you know, if you're putting something to Microsoft Word, it doesn't spell check unless you put, exactly what you're saying, unless you put some words down. So the same with AI, you have to input it. But it's really interesting seeing all the arguments at the moment on it.
I think some people, they take it too serious. I think you don't need to take it that much serious using ChatGPT to your work. For myself, it's a tools that aid, as you said, that I'm dyslexic and I am forgetful. So I will forget a lot of whatever I'm thinking. So what I do, I write things. I do not write things on pen and paper, because later I can't read them and I don't know what I have written. So
I get that.
I always write it down. I have a ChatGPT application that we have built, internal application. So I write it down there. Okay, this is the thinking that I'm doing, and I will work on that later. So when I ask ChatGPT, okay, I'm thinking this, and you know that new division person, our brain is crap. I would say we think those things that some other people, they can't think. So asking ChatGPT, like, are you thinking the right thing? Is there anything else out there already people are thinking about it, or people talking about it? That's good thing, isn't it? Because when you are a researcher, you search things. So I can remember my PhD, ChatGPT was not there. So I can write with a computer and a keyboard, pages. It doesn't matter. It doesn't bother me. So when I start writing, I just write, type, write. Now, I don't do like that. With ChatGPT, I think, okay, tell me a story, or tell me something, or tell me, can you find out this article? Can you give me overview of this? What happened? Because it's just like a second buddy, I would say.
Yeah.
But you have to have original contribution from yourself. Like, okay, you're thinking, your contribution, and get it out there.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I feel like we get quite set in our ways of what's sort of real and right and wrong. And when these new technologies comes, it does change our perception, you know, of and how we have to make a change. And a lot of people, you know, one of my favorite books is Who Moved My Cheese, where some people like change and some don't, and some will adopt it and some won't. And yeah, there was a lot of talk in education about how they're going to do coursework and things in this current era where AI's become predominant. And you know, what will happen is we'll have to just how we measure people, and how, because if they can sort of use AI to fill in some details and a coursework, you know, how else can we do it? You know, for example, they can't use AI detection tools because that they're known to pick up people with English as a second language and autistic children as being AI because of their formal language. So they can't use those. So it's about that mindset shift, which I think people struggle with, that we, you know, this thing is here, ChatGPT, other AI is here. It's not going away. So you're going to have to be able to work out how to work out how someone's absorbed information with around it. You know, it's just not going to happen otherwise. So it's working out how we can assess people, how we can change our mindset. You know, I've seen some books recently that, but going back to the book writing, that have been written with AI, and I've seen the images. I'm like, actually look like really nice books. And people saying, oh, you know, people won't buy them because they're AI. And I'm like, actually, I would read this to my child. You know, it looks really good. It's got, because it came from a human. The idea was from a human. They'd come up with these characters. They weren't very good at drawing, so they described the characters to them, and it created these ones that basically took the vision out their head because they didn't have the skills to create them. And I think the main argument I see is that, say for example, that person that wrote that book, what they should do is pay an artist to do the drawings and pay an editor or pay a ghostwriter. So I think the worry I see is that people are losing out on jobs. And a lot of the people I know that in content writing do seem to be struggling at the moment. But I would say that this does happen. There is a change of jobs and everything with every new, think about how many people displaced when the internet and computers started up. There were people that were manually copying books. My ex-partner used to work in a copy center, and he had to do things by patching together bits of paper, using photocopies. So he was completely displaced when digital came, and he had to relearn to become a digital designer. So his job is, this has happened before, and it will happen over and over again as we have these technologies. And what he had to do was just retrain into something new. And was it disappointing that he'd lost the job that he was doing? Yes, it was. But that's what happens, the Industrial Revolution way back when, and things like that. Things change and people get replaced. And, poor people, think about the poor old people used to run steam trains. We don't have steam trains anymore. So, they went through the same thing, and it's harsh. But what I'd like to see is more about helping people navigate the career change, and doing that, because I don't think there's enough around there.
I totally agree with you. But, when technology kicks in, we are talking about technology.
Yeah.
So when something kicks in, usually those people, they are around it, or they are working the similar trade. Yeah. Some of the jobs will vanish. If you think about prehistoric time, like, okay, you just talk about the steam train.
Yeah.
People, they are related to steam train or coal, the coal train and all other things. When electricity involved, or when diesel engine, all those things came out, usually some people will go out of job. So it's not the technology. It's just like we need to change our habits. Like you say that your ex-partner, he transformed himself with the industry. That's why he could carry on his activities to the next levels. But if you think like AI, everyone is a writer now because we got AI. Will everyone write? No. You think novelist, everyone will become novelist? No. Not everyone will become a novelist. I don't have appetite to become a novelist until I wanted to do so. And there will be like few people in this space. Yes, some of the people's job will go. If they don't transform it, it will go, because it is AI now. If you think about maybe 100 or 200 years later, we will have cars on the horizon. We will not have any physical roads. We will have everything traffic to the air. So at that time, if you still wanted to, to have a physical car itself to run into the road, that's up to you. But if you don't transform yourself to the air with all this hovercraft and all this everything there on the air, you're going to be fall apart, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it does happen, and I feel like I've seen this cycle over and over again, where people get horrified by something and then it's moving. And I'm not saying there aren't any ethical considerations, particularly with like the things like where they got the data from and things like that. I do want to see more ethics in some of those areas. But change is hard. It is hard. And I read a brilliant article the other day that was talking about how people maybe in certain industries like the library industry could maybe retrain us, because their knowledge of how to find information, they make really good prompt engineers and things like that. So it was giving some ideas of like maybe more sort of older professions, how they might be able to embrace new AI jobs that keep those same skill sets, but actually they sort of take them to the next level, which I think is really interesting. And I know, from my point of view, and I know you love AI, I think that there's this, we need to admit to ourselves that not everyone can do everything. Going back to business owners, we can't do everything. We can't always afford to pay someone. Going back to that person with the book drawings and that, they may not be able to afford to pay for someone to do the books. Does that mean they shouldn't create a book? Maybe not. Does it mean you shouldn't run a business if you can't do certain tasks? If something like AI picks it up, that feels okay, because there's certain stages in a business, particularly, where you can't afford, you get stuck. You can't afford to get someone in, but you're getting a bit big to do it all yourself. And it's that sort of middle ground, because a lot of people would probably rather hire someone to do some bits, not everything, but some bits for them. Like, I hire an accountant because I need their expertise for all the sort of, because it can be quite dangerous if you don't have one, and you're not very good with accounts. So I hire them because I need the human expertise of all the law, the laws and things like that. But I can't afford to hire marketeers. I can't afford to hire, website designer, this, that, the other. I mean, luckily I've got a few of those skill sets myself. But if you haven't, you just might not be there yet that you can hire someone. And you've either got to try and do it yourself, which causes burnout, stress, or you can find technology to help bridge that gap, until as such time that you're ready to do it. And even in big business, budgets are always tight. You probably can't hire the entire team that you want. You're probably still going to need technology to bridge the gap, and AI is brilliant for that.
I totally agree with you, because when you talk about technology, if you give a scenario like, okay, it's a new business, and the person, maybe a solopreneur, he started his business. He's very good at accounting, but he hasn't got other skill sets, and he hasn't got the money to invest. What he would do, he would search something that is readily available. So readily available means you can spend £50 and you get a website. That's technology that you need nowadays. You maybe have a SaaS-based application, like, okay, you pay a little bit of money and you get the marketing services, lead generation services, and a lot of other things. You pay a little bit of money, you get AI to do that for you. Like if you need graphic design, there won't be like extraordinary, because human thinking and human work is extraordinary. You can't compare that with AI. But some of the things that AI can do, it's going to be very much time consuming for us to do, and very much expensive for us to do. I watched a BBC documentary a couple of weeks back that, when you create CGI, computer generated images, if you wanted to do an animation, it takes ages, like Avatar or all other projects, big projects. So what they're doing now, they're creating AI scenarios to copy them to the next levels. Like, okay, what they are thinking, are they thinking right? Is it creating the right scenario and all those things? But with short time, less investment. So if you think a creative director and he wanted to publish a film, he would have engaged with AI and create all those scenes with AI rather than investing millions there, because he hasn't got millions. How could he invest? So if then when an accountant, he hasn't got lots of money, so he will start alone. And when time goes, and people will improve their work because they wanted to engage with more people, and they will hire people, and then they will ratify those things they have done previously to make it better.
No, I 100% agree. And a lot of the stuff I do is I always talk about, it's that getting people to the next level. It is that sort of trying to fill in those gaps. And a lot of the business I work with, they're at a point where they've got a few customers and they're starting to do things, but they're just like, I'm working 60, 70 hours a week, and I'm not seeing my kids, I'm not going on holiday, but I can't quite, I need a couple more customers, then I can afford someone. But I can't, it's a bit stuck. I can't quite, get that bit further, or get enough because I haven't got time to get another couple of customers. So that's when they're the sort of ideal scenarios that I say get some sort of AI or tech involved, because you sort of stuck, you know, and a bit like you're saying with the, you know, the big companies as well, sort of the sort of envisioning this sort of, you know, 3D's environments and everything. Not everyone has the budget to do, to hire people to do that bit. So I feel like it's a sort of enabler of, and maybe this is sort of it's leveling out, not just because we talk about leveling up with disabilities, but it's leveling up people that they don't have the skill sets, they don't have the time, they don't have the money. You know, you're seeing a lot of people now that run businesses, because, you know, you get this picture of an entrepreneur. And I did a talk on Friday around bias in data, and we generated this image of an entrepreneur, and it was a tech entrepreneur, must be mid-20s. Like, we didn't fill any details, but I got it to generate, I think it was 8 images, and it was the same entrepreneur. Like, all I asked was, generate me an image of an entrepreneur. I didn't take any type, and it was this tech entrepreneur, about mid-20s, you know, with his laptop and everything. And when I was in the room, we got everyone else to generate it as well. Everyone got the same person, because this is an entrepreneur that we see in the stories, that they don't have kids, they've got loads of time, they've got no disabilities, they've got loads of energies, they're probably more either middle class, or there's some privilege or opportunity, which means they can spend their time building this business. But actually, that's such a small percentage of our entrepreneurs and business owners that below. And you hear about, you know, this hustle culture, time culture. I mean, I have fibromyalgia. I only have a limited amount of energy. I have a 9-year-old child. You know, does that mean that I can't be an entrepreneur? No, it doesn't. It just means that I need some help from somewhere. And I know we've talked about access to work, that I get the physical help, but that's not enough. I can't just do my access to work. So then AI helps me, because do I not deserve to run a business? Do I not? Can I not run it? You know, there's people that are trying to run businesses whilst holding a full-time job. You know, should they not get a hand? And this is where you think, well, yeah, actually, it's a real great level up of people, and particularly if you look at things like women in sort of startups, who, if you look at how much funding they get less than men do, you know, well, they're going to have to work a way around that. So AI, you know, time-saving tools are going to be brilliant, helping them, you know, writing grant applications, helping them with their marketing. You know, it's almost like this sort of leveler up of privilege almost, so that you get a little bit of helping hand. So, you know, I am a big fan of this sort of helping other people. And I've been on, so I don't think I've mentioned this to the audience. So I've been on Mounjaro, which is the weight loss drugs. And it's really interesting, because I feel like similar parallels with this. I'm just coming off it now, because I'm nearly at my goal weight. And I have underactive thyroid. I put on weight really easily. I really struggled, and the nurse suggested I try it. And it's really interesting, because I've followed a lot of videos around Mounjaro and Ozempic and all these stuff, and because it makes it easier losing weight, it's thought of as like a cheat. And I feel like AI is very, very similar. It's this sort of, if something makes something just a little bit easier, it's a cheat, and you're cheating and you can't do it. And actually, I don't see anything wrong with making our lives a bit easier. It's really hard. So, yeah, you know, balancing everything. I don't know what you think about that.
I totally agree with you. I had the similar issue with my doctor. I'm diabetic, and my diabetic is very high at the moment. I don't want to get insulin. So they have asked me to get another medication. And I was asked for this drug that you just said. And they said, you tick all the boxes, but you don't take the actual weight. You have to be in there. So you are like half kilo or 1 kilo less than the actual weight that we should prescribe it. So think about it, that I cannot get these drugs from my GP, and without a medical professional, I can't buy it and have it, because that would be dying, isn't it? So if you think this scenario with the other people, like, okay, you can do such things, you are eligible to do such things, but other person, they're stuck, because they are in the tech space. Maybe they don't do very good draw artworks, or they don't do very good graphics. So what they would do, they wanted to hire a graphic designer, but when you hire a graphic designer, it's expensive. It's not very easy task to do. So what they would do, they would go to AI and they will tell their story and then post that to the social media, because nowadays you have to have social media if you are a business, because it's not like traditional media that people will read from paper, they will see on your telly, and then they will come back to you and they will buy your services. You have to have a footprint on social media. So
Mm.
think about those people that they are in the catch 22 situation, catch
Yeah.
22 situation, that they neither have money, they neither have the expertise to do it. What they do, they will definitely embrace the technology. So as you mentioned, that technology plays a vital role. So if I give an example of signing agreement,
Mm.
if you're in business, you need to sign agreement with your clients. And if you go to traditional medium, it costly. It's very costly. If you wanted to go to solicitor, it is costly. So previously, people used to steal agreements from different places, and they usually change the formats, and they used to do it. Nowadays, if you want need an agreement, we just develop an application that you can build your AI agreement, because for that you don't need to go to solicitor, because an agreement is a law binding with you and your client. So if the terminology is clear, both you agrees, you don't need to go to a solicitor. But when you go to a solicitor, when it is a multi-million pound deals, that you need like pages of things, you need all the laws, all the clause, and everything is written properly and is spotted. So you depend on someone expert. So
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that you generate AI agreement, the all the solicitor, they will be out of work.
Yeah. And you know, because I got some legal documents done when my business partner joined, and it was £2,500 for fairly standard documents. And that is a lot of money. Some
Yeah.
people won't, that would be like, most of their earnings for the year,
Mhm.
depending on how many hours you put into your business. So thinking about the context, like you said, you're not dealing with multi-million pound businesses here all the time. We both of us work a lot with small businesses. We're dealing with people that may only earn what their wages for the year. So when you dig money out of that, can they pay their mortgage? Can they, send their kids to nursery? Can they, this is huge things. When I did that, luckily I'd had a couple of really good contracts, but even I was like, oh my god, that's less money for me this year, because it was incredibly expensive, and that was just one very small set of documents. I mean, if I'd have done all the documents I needed that year through the law firm, it would have wiped out my earnings, and then it would have been pointless running a business.
I totally agree with you. So that's why I think that technology will play a vital role, but technology will only play a vital role uh, how you wanted to embrace them, how you wanted to utilize them, how you wanted to be ethical, all those things. Writing a blog post on social media, I don't think so. You have to be very ethical for that, because you're just writing a social media post to give maybe a little bit nudge to the people, or maybe let people know what you are doing. But writing a research paper, you have to be ethical, because you are observing things, you are referring things, and you are making things that other people will rely on, depends on. So
Yeah.
next time you can think about ethical. Writing a blog post, if you observe something and you ask AI to write you that, you don't need to be that much ethical, because it's just things you are describing, maybe related to your business, maybe related to other people's business. If you want to refer them, you can, but if you don't need to refer them, that's okay, that's end of the world. But if you're writing a white paper, it has to be ethical, isn't it? So it depends what you do. As I said, writing an agreement with AI, can do a 5 minutes if you give all the clauses and everything to ChatGPT or any other medium. That's very easy. But if you are doing a extended contract, legally binding contract, that's you cannot depend on AI. You cannot depend on technology. So we got some of the questions from the audience. I just wanted to read it through.
Yeah.
So Salodin asked, how can organization ensure ethical use of AI and automation during the transformation that we're talking about right now?
Yeah. I think, we've sort of discussed a lot of that ethical side, but I think it's always just thinking about these sort of consequences, isn't it? And talk about, like, if people are going to be displaced, what can we do to help them retrain, or from a human point of view. I think there are a lot of ethical considerations with AI in what data you use, and I think it's just going through each area and trying to remind yourself, are we doing this in a right way, that feels wrong. The thing is, it's really hard, because I'm saying this from someone who's quite ethical. If you are morally bankrupt, you may struggle to, you see a lot of these tech giants and you think, they don't seem to have many morals. And when you're dealing with people, and this is where we need laws, and I think, and some sort of guidelines, because I'm thinking of it from an ethical point of view. What do we need to think about? What's the impact, from environmental impact to human impact? But actually, if someone is morally ambiguous, or so, they may not think about these things. They may not care about them. And then I think, it's more in ourselves as people around to sort of make sure we're protecting ourselves from it, because you can't always think that someone will do the right thing. I've worked for companies that have absolutely not done the right thing ethically, morally, and and I've had to have, I've left some of those, and all of them that have done anything that really doesn't line with my values. So I think there's the two sides to it. If you're ethically minded, making sure you're considering the impact and how to mitigate that, but also protecting yourself. What are my morals and what are my values? Speaking up if something isn't right, suggesting ideas, but also, trying to get involved with the ethical side of things, like what's going on in the law, joining groups and things like that to try and contribute to it, I think.
That's a great answer, Anna. And as I said, it depends up to what work you do. If you are presenting a data, you have to be ethical. You need to look the data you are presenting, because AI could be sometimes misleading. So check your data properly. If you are presenting data, if you're presenting any personalized information, like you are writing about someone, AI could be sometimes problematic, not creating the right information for the right purposes. So check those properly before you publish anything. Maybe you will publish something that wasn't really right at all, so you're going to be in trouble. So anything that you do, be honest, be mindful, and check what you are publishing. That will give you the next stage. So the next question I have: how do you companies use technology to personalize customer experience at scale?
Oh, that's a good one, isn't it? I'm going to start back at the beginning, because we were talking before we started here, weren't we, Dr. Shah, about strategy and knowing your audience. And I think before you do anything at scale, I would go back a step, because the problem with doing stuff at scale is it can enhance the issues you already have, and particularly customer experience. And I've seen companies that have sort of scaled things. So I'm going to give you an example, actually. So I bought a moisturizer from Boots. And I like Boots. I shop in Boots regularly. I've got their contact lenses. That's where I actually got my Manjaro from as well. So I get lots of points. I'm quite loyal to them. This is the first time I'd bought online. And something had happened, and my parcel, whilst being delivered to the Boots store, just disappeared. And they said that you couldn't contact them for 7 days, which was a bit annoying because it was their own delivery service. So I was like, well, surely you know where it is. So then I went onto their AI, and I feel like someone in the background went, let's get an AI chatbot because everyone's got them. They're really good, but didn't actually really know what to do with an AI chatbot. Because I went on it and I said, oh, my parcel's late. It says, put in your details. So I put in the order details, and the chatbot comes back with, oh, your parcel should be with you on or before the deadline. And I was like, my deadline's passed. So I wrote back to it and said, my deadline's passed. And at this point, it just sort of freaked out, couldn't comprehend this sort of thing. And I think this is a sort of reflection on companies that maybe don't understand, because Boots do a really good customer experience in store, but I found even their app a little bit clunky and not fabulous. And now they're starting to do AI, and they're gonna, and then they do another thing and another thing, and it's like, well, actually, I think you need to get a bit more tech savvy and understand what your customers want and how they need answering, because I know Boots demographic is generally older. And if you get something frustrating like that, where you get into a loop with a bot, I mean, I'm tech savvy, but even I couldn't really work out what to do next, or where I was going. I just went down this hole. And, take a step back. Would this benefit my customers? Who are my customers? What do they expect? Because that bot, I'm sorry, was absolutely no reason for it to exist at that point. It wasn't clever. It didn't know where my parcel was. It just parroted me back something that was completely unintelligent. It's just frustrated me more. And to the point, I'm never going to order online with Boots ever again. I'll still go in store because I enjoy my local store, but I'm never going to, because it really put me off. It was so rubbish. I'm like, you've not thought about the experience here at all. And I could see this sort of compounding, because like I said, they didn't get some of the basics right on the website and the app already. And I'm like, if you don't get the basics right, how are you going to do an AI chatbot? So I would say go back and actually make sure you understand your customers, that you're not going to annoy them, that you know what you're doing, and you actually know what experience you want to offer, because that should have been something fantastic, and it put me off them for life.
I totally agree with you, because it's just the purpose, isn't it? What purpose you want to utilize technology is similar every way. The purpose, internal purpose or your customer purpose. So when you think about your internal purpose, it's going to be you, if you are a slowpreneur, or your team, if you are a member of a team. So think about your purpose first, that the technology you wanted to embed, will they fulfill the needs of your internal purpose? And then think about, okay, what is my external purpose? Those technology you wanted to embed, will it help your clients? Will it help anyway to your community, to the purpose, I would say? Then you decide, as Anna said, purposeful. But they have included a chatbot, but they didn't think about to include a link or embed their delivery mechanism with the bot, because AI is nothing until you get them the knowledge. AI is just knowledge. AI is like millions of data. So if it doesn't have the data that you're looking for, it can't produce things for you. So those people, they are building technology, AI-enabled system, or they are embedding AI bots and those things to their system. You have to know, like, okay, your customer journey. You need to know, like, okay, if and then rules. If it happens, what will happen? If it's not, what will happen? And I will understand it better, because when we develop software, or when you develop a process map, we say, if yes, if no. If it's yes, what will happen? If it's no, what will happen? No could be an yes after you perform the task. Okay, it will go to the yes. And after yes, what is next? So there is a process map that you need to think about it. And if you can process it properly, it doesn't matter your software development, it doesn't matter your business process, it doesn't matter your customer satisfaction. You will get the right answer. So thank you everyone for joining today's live webinar. I'm Dr. Shah Siddiqui, and I have Anna Bromington with me. So someone written here, I'm just going to show his message. Thank you very much for your message here. We do not know your name, so we cannot tell what is your name. So he said, no one knows what can post using AI and the laws involved. And I agree with Anna on this one. I always second guess myself before I post. That's a good answer and remarks. I would say we
Yeah.
shouldn't depend totally on technology. We shouldn't depend totally on AI. We should ratify our causes, ratify that we do afterwards. That okay, it is writing properly, it is informing you properly, that you will get the right thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the one thing that I keep reading is that ChatGPT and AI is reducing critical thinking,
Mhm.
and I think that the thing to make sure we're not doing is outsourcing our brains to AI, because you still need, like you said, second guessing yourself before you post. That's that critical thinking. Does this sound like me? Does it sound right? Does it, is it going to be of benefit? It's all of those areas that you've got to think around. I mean, it's the same as if I didn't have AI, I would be thinking of similar ones. This post I'm putting out, is it of benefit to people? Does it fulfill my goals?
Mhm.
It's just the tool we're using is different. We should be using the same process as if we're doing them ourselves. So is this gonna be of benefit? Is this gonna get the goal I want it to? What are my goals for it? What do I want to convey? Is it going to be interesting to the audience? And all those things. Or with processes, is it going to save me time? We think back to the boots one you were saying about internal ones. What were their reasons for creating the AI bot? Was it to reduce their customer service, to make customers happy, because we could find out stuff? Did none of those, because I had to message them separately because it couldn't answer any questions. Didn't make me happy because I couldn't, I was talking to it when they were out of hours. So, but then it couldn't answer anything. So I can't work out what their process thought was for the base thought of that. And that's the worry, that sometimes people just adopt technology and don't put the thought process in. Why are we doing this? What's going to come out of it?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Anna. We have another questions. Uh, Thank you for your questions, Zakir. What's the best way to ensure employee adapt to new digital tools and process?
That's a good one. I think I mentioned Who Moved My Cheese earlier, which is one of my favorite sort of video stroke books around how some people struggle to deal with change and some don't. I think for me, it's bringing people on the journey and reassuring them. One of the biggest things I find as a hesitance to adoption is people thinking they're going to lose their job,
Mhm.
because that is a risk. We've already discussed it is a risk, but how could they, reassure them? If you can't reassure them, can you repurpose them? What is going to
Mhm.
happen to them? Because why, like, if I'm an accountant and there's a new technology that's come in that is basically going to replace me, why am I going to get on board with that? I'm not going to get on board with it because I'm going to lose my job.
Yeah.
We're sometimes asking people to get on something board with them that is actually going to be maybe detrimental to them. So as a company, we have to think, well, how can we make this not detrimental? And if we are going to lose that person, actually don't ask them to get on board, because they're
Mhm.
not going to be. That people, as people work for companies, but actually they have their own self to think about, and they should think about their own selves, because they need to feed their families, or feed themselves, or look after their house, or look after pets, or people have responsibilities, and we can't ask people to be martyrs for business when someone else is going to earn £1 million and they've just got their wage and they're going to be made redundant. You can't ask that of people. So you either have to just leave them out the loop because it's not really fair on them, because they're going to go anyway. Or if it isn't going to affect them, we've got to work out how to retrain them and be very clear and transparent, involve them in the journey, where would they like to go, what would they like to do, if they're going to have to learn to use the system, starting training very early, making sure it fits all the requirements they need to do their job. It's this involvement all the time, I think.
I totally agree with you the way you say it, because when you're embedding a technology for your company, it's two things. One thing is improving the current mechanism, or upgrading from old to new. Because when you upgrade things, it means that your technology is old. So you need new technology, because system has changed, settings has changed, geography has changed, even politics can implement, can have a diverse effect of changing your paradigm, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when you think that something is changing, it's better to understand who is it for. If you think that, okay, you bringing new technology and you wanted to have a job cut, like if you talk about Elon Musk, he bought X, he cut like most of the people, isn't it?
Yeah,
He
loads.
bought, yes, he bought new technology, but he has given a golden handshake. He didn't ask them to train on new technology. He cut those jobs and give them golden handshake, and they all gone away. They found their other place to work. So when you're bringing new technology, think about ethical implementation. Like, okay, if you want a job cut, let people know that this is the new technology we're embedding. So your job not going to be there afterwards. So this is the process of your senior management. But if they say like, okay, you're not going to be there, but if you are a human, you have imagination, or you have excellent working power, you can turn it down to the different levels. Like, okay, you are thinking to lose these things, but I'm not on that category. I can improve, and I can contribute more than the digital tools you are embedding. They will keep you, because no one will let their good people go away from the company if you are a very good tools for the company.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it is that, the one thing that I say more about digital implementation is that it gets us to use more of our human superpowers. So the strategic side, the real deep level thinking, going back to you saying about AI, it's that deep level thinking, the stuff that where we can connect the dots and we can put all these creative ideas together. Do you know what? Someone mentioned to me the other day, and I feel like this gives a really good, great example of humanness. It was around when the Iceland volcanoes were when it erupted, and there was supposed to be a few conferences on at the time, and I think there was one in Iceland, but there was some where people from Iceland and other places were supposed to be meeting across Europe, and because there was not just between us and Iceland, but generally in Europe, there wasn't much travel because of the problems with the sort of stuff coming over. So someone, I can't remember who it was, came up with, I think it was Volcano Conference, which was an online conference that included and asked all the speakers that were supposed to be speaking at these conferences if they'd like to speak at Volcano Conference. And they did it online, and they got all these top speakers, and it was done within like days, not weeks. And I'm just like, that is a human idea. There is no way something could have like it. It's these innovative ideas where they're taking this and this completely unrelated subjects and putting them together. I am absolutely convinced that AI could not come up with this idea, because it was so imaginative. It was so amazing. And this is what we need humans for. You see some of the best marketing campaigns. You're like, how did they think of that? How did you put those two things together? Absolute genius. And by taking away some of the admin work, and I've got another thought on that as well, because for some people, taking away some of this admin work, it allows them to open up and spend time. Your finance director can spend more time on the strategic side. The the marketing team can spend more on these real ideation and concepts and everything. My only comment is that in work we have different levels of people. Some people are very good at the admin and the basic skills. You know, not everyone is degree educated. Not everyone is a genius or an entrepreneur. We all have different levels, and that's what makes businesses work. You know, I see a lot of people going, oh, they're only wait staff, you know, waitress, wait staff. They're only clean. They're only something. There's no such thing as only. All of these levels of jobs keep the world working. My worry is that with technology is that the end where people are really good with admin, that may not have degrees, that are really good at this process stuff or just day-to-day stuff. I worry that some of them will get misplaced or displaced somewhere, and we need to think, well, what can we do then? Because they may not want to be CEOs or managers. They're quite happy day-to-day in a job. So going back a bit to ethics, you know, of how we can make sure that people aren't displaced, because people need jobs. So those ones that are being displaced, but maybe starting to be displaced everywhere, what can they do that maybe means that they've still got a job somewhere? Yeah, so that's my only worry at the moment, because we're getting at AI to do a lot of admin jobs, and not everyone's strategic. So
Well, I think, you know, when you're talking AI is doing the admin jobs,
yeah,
I think it's a myth. AI
yeah,
cannot do all the admin jobs,
that's
because
true. Yeah.
administrator, they are human, because they know if someone is off sick, you can't tell AI that I'm off sick, isn't it? If someone administrator, they knows who is clever, who is not, and you know, AI cannot point it out who is not doing their job correctly. Yeah, AI is for improvements. Admin can utilize AI to make their time, like you said, maybe they are doing a work in 10 hours, they can reduce it to 2 hours. And that 2 hours, they can think about it strategically, they can think about those things they could not do without help of AI. But in a way, those things like, okay, software developers, will they replaced with AI? No, I don't think so, because the way they think, AI cannot think way. But what AI can do, maybe there's a problem in their code, AI can find that code for you, so make their work swift. If you think designer, AI will replace them, in a way, as we discussed, like, okay, slow runners, they don't have money, so they will utilize AI, you cannot stop them anyway. But if you need improve, great ideas, combine things, as we discussed on our previous lives, that yes, we use AI, but we use human and AI work together to make it extraordinary. Because some of the things you can do it AI very well. Some of the things AI will never can do that and human can.
Yeah.
So in that space, I would say technology is your helping hands, maybe a buddy that you utilize them for your good purposes, not for anything else.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really essential that everyone in every business gets trained on AI as well. I feel like it's another of those jobs that people expect people just to be able to use it straight away. Everyone could do marketing, everyone could do, you know, design, everyone can do AI, you know, and prompt AI. And actually, you know, that's the best thing you could do for all of your staff, is to train them on how to use it properly and get the most value out of it. Because, and there's a few government grants actually I've seen around at the moment on training staff with AI as well. So you can even get some grant subsidies for it, because they know how important this is. So I'd love to see more AI staff training across all size businesses. And like I said, there are free ones as well. So if your small business haven't got the money, have a look for those.
I totally agree. So we are nearly end of our session, Anna. So thank you everyone for joining today's live webinar. So few takeaways we can talk about in embedding technology, current technology. It doesn't matter, it's AI or anything else. Few takeaways. Can you give maybe 3 takeaways?
Yeah, I think I'm definitely on the ethical side of it. The ethical consideration, the impact on humans, and how you're sort of perceiving yourself. Back to what you're saying, Dr. Shah, about, are you putting statistically right facts out, make sure there's no misinformation, but also from a staff point of view, making sure they are trained. I think from a technology point of view, making sure that you're doing them for the right reasons and you have a strategy behind it, because technology without a strategy can just be like the Boots AI bot, completely unhelpful and actually detrimental. And I think the third one is I'm very much into trying and experimentation. And so, just trying things out and giving it a go, not being afraid of things, because you don't know how things are going to work unless you give them a try. So give them a little go and do it on a project, then try another. And if you've got your goals of what you want to achieve, you can just keep trialing things.
That's great takeaways. And for me, as I said, think before you impose something to your employee, because they have grown your business before AI was kicked in.
Yeah.
Be ethical, think about that, be human first, because if you're not human, if you wanted to earn lots of money, not valuing your colleagues, not valuing the environment, not valuing the lot of other things that you should do, that will maybe give you money but not really can give you your uh, actual growth. So be human first, and then utilize knowledge to extend your knowledge to the next levels. Value everyone that you are working with. So thank you everyone for joining today's live webinar. I'm Dr. Shah Siddiqui, and I have Anna Brevington, and we will welcome you next month. Until then, stay tuned, stay blessed, and follow our work. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Bye.